Hello, everybody. What a beautiful day. We are having crazy Alberta weather today. 1 minute it's +8 outside Celsius, then the next minute we have a snowstorm in front of us again. So I am grateful because we had such drought last year that and we know that rain has better absorption than snow because a lot of it evaporates into the to the air. Sorry, but I love the humidity. I love that we're getting a drink, and that's fantastic. And I want to thank all of you watching, whatever time it is that you're watching, whatever day you're on. This is Sit in It with myself, Tracy A. Martin, and my co-host, Charismatic Candy, from Opening Doors Productions. We're episode 7. And I want to thank you all for your feedback, letting me know, because of course we don't know until we know. And it's been great to have people say, oh, I watch your podcast every week. There's just so much information. And I thank you for that. If any of you want to comment more or comment more on what you'd like to know about, you can totally comment on the Sit in It group on Facebook as well, because that will really get all the other members going too. Some people are scared to submit questions. For instance, this week we have no questions that were submitted this week, so we'll just go with the flow of where we're divinely supposed to be on purpose. But yeah, don't be scared to show up. Don't be scared to ask anything. Because again, there's no stupid question. That's old broken mind traps that kept you from critically thinking, for being able to contemplate and go in deeper. So there is no stupid question ever. Is there people who have issues with not hearing? That's one of the things I would love to play into for people to sit in today, because we know that this society has been brought up through broken mind traps on listening to respond, not listening to hear. And when you can actually show up on purpose and be in that conversation with someone, it's not for you to have any comparison or anything coming from your memory bank to have relatability. It's actually sitting and holding space for someone. What is holding space to you? So you see someone post something on Facebook that they just lost their cat or they lost a family member. It doesn't matter what it is, it's a loss. And so many people instantly say, so sorry for your loss. Nobody needs to hear so sorry for. We don't want anyone to feel sorry for us. That just intensifies the loss. But that person going through it, is there one thing that you can say to them? No. Because they're in shock, for one. Most people won't even see those comments till weeks, sometimes months later, when they actually get back into a place of not being in the place of fight, flight, or freeze, because it becomes a reactionary survival place, because everything in your world just changed. And holding space for someone is knowing that you're just cocooning them in love. If they need you, you're there. If they need something, you're there. Because we don't know what anybody needs. They don't even know what they need. So to be able to hold space for someone is deep and no different than any conversation. When you give yourself fully to someone in that conversation, that is the greatest respect you can give anyone. It doesn't matter if it's your 2-year-old learning to speak or a jibber jabber. They know it. They feel it. And the fact that you're in and listening to them and responding to them and building them up, it's fantastic. But so many people cut you off continually, and they wonder why people stop talking. Because the moment anyone tries to interject on you, you've just stopped their flow of what is coming out with their frequency. Unless you're deliberately trying to change it because they're stuck in a pattern of poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. That's why a lot of people interject saying, you know what, I'm not, where are you at? You're going the wrong way, get back here, things like that. That's where you can help in that conversation. But what is it to be able to just sit and listen so that you can sit and hear them? Do you have to understand? No. No one's ever going to understand what another person is saying. No one is going to ever understand how another person is feeling. We can have the same feelings of anger, and each and every one of us has a completely different idea what anger is. To some people, it's rage. And to some people, yeah, it's just, upset. And so to know, to be able to sit and actually listen, to hear, not to respond, is a beautiful place that I would like to start the day with. So, Charismatic Candy, would you like to welcome everybody in on the podcast today?
You bet. Welcome, everyone. Week 7, or podcast 7, I guess it is. And looking forward to seeing where the mystery and the magic takes us today, because I imagine there's going to be a few important little tidbits that we can get out of what's coming up from today. And I just want to say, even if it's snowing in your world today, let's make the best of what we can, and let's just put our best foot forward.
Thank you so much. So, is there a question that you have, beings you're here, right here, on purpose, Charismatic Candy? Or is there something you would like the audience to know?
I guess if we're going on the communication piece, are there tools that people can use to ground themselves to be better listeners, to be a better support system for those that are talking, so that if they do fall into victimization, how can one work with them to help pull them into, I guess not pull them, because we're not here to pull people, we're here to support people if they're ready. So are there certain questions or certain grounding techniques that a person could do to become a better support system in listening?
So, the first thing that I would probably bring out to everyone, because everyone's going to be their level of support from their perspective differently, if they want to be there. Many people don't know how to communicate because that's what the broken mind traps have taught you, is to have a fear of confrontation instead of love of communication. And communication is love. Love is communicating. If you can't communicate, that will be one of the biggest, and people call it the big C word, cancer. It's communication. Complacency is another, and commitment. Those 3 C's are very important in building any relationship and maintaining it, because in it you build trust, you build a level of respect, and that is love. And so the first thing, when I know in my chair here, or if I'm on the phone or wherever I am, is knowing that I have to center myself first before I engage, knowing I'm here on purpose. And so I feel within myself and ground myself to check inside first, knowing you're feeling someone's energy before you even start to respond. And every one of you has the empathic nature to you. Some are full-on empaths, so the clairsentience really becomes a big part of who you are, because you're feeling people's energy before they even come into the room. Or, as you're looking on the phone and you see the display coming up, you can feel into that person's energy before you even answer the phone. And so it's knowing if it's chaotic, if it's nervous, if it's angry, if it's whatever, if you can't remain in a grounded, centered place, then I suggest you let it go to voicemail and get back to them when you can be centered enough to talk with them, because you have nothing to do with it and you have everything to do with it. Again, we're playing in that paradox of how you chose to show up, or choose to show up, is on purpose. And so Who do you want to be in that moment for them? And we know many people get triggered because as the empathic part of you, you start feeling that, you start responding to it and reacting to it instead of centering it down. So again, one of the greatest techniques that is the most simple, easy, very well working technique is breathing. And it's just concentrating on deepening that breath in and hold it for the count of 4 and release it for the count of 4. And most of us within 3 breaths really feel that groundedness and that centeredness, because calm is a superpower. Being calm it's priceless. It really is. And so the art of detachment from any form of outcome would be the next tool that I would probably suggest, is knowing you are detached from any type of expectation from these people, whoever you're in interaction with, no judgment around it, and you're taking nothing personally. So that becomes a detachment, because all an attachment is you having an agenda. That's control. So the moment that you have this detached, calm space, do you realize the vibe you give off to people? And they feel heard and they start to calm down as well. So I know that's the first thing that I do, is I always continually check in with myself. And if I feel I can't be centered in that moment, I break the conversation and let them know I'll be back in just one moment, because you have every right to take care of you. Whether it's with a lover or friend or child or parent or whoever, whatever relationship, whether you've known them 100,000 of your lifetimes or you're just meeting them, you have the right to keep yourself where you want to feel centered in. And sometimes there may be conversations you aren't interested in engaging in. Do you need to engage in them? Again, no response is a response. And it's up to them whether they take it personally or have judgment or an expectation around it. But by you saving space, just sitting in an open space for them to have this open platform, in a detached place, in this calm place, you see the story they're speaking to you from a way broader set of eyes, because compassion becomes a part of that, because it just is. And that's what love is. And so communication, again, is key. There's no wrong way to communicate. Each person has their own drive, their own thoughts and ideas, and they only know what they know. And so the more that you can teach someone to engage more and communicate more, the more it's easier for them to have that become their program as well, because it just starts to become the repeat and it becomes easier and easier. My husband, he very much so was brought up around, not talking about his feelings or communicating. And unfortunately, many people will believe that because their mind is going, and they'll believe they've told you things outside of the mouth when they haven't. And that's what's happening on a big scale right now because of text messaging. And so people will believe that they read someone's text message and they're saying this and that, and nothing was spoken out loud. And so then they'll start speaking, saying, well, so-and-so's doing this and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, this is the first time hearing of this. And they'll go to the place of confusion because they were in on the communication with someone, but it was quiet. It wasn't part of yours. And so this is a big thing where people are having to really sit in, is understanding to speak with your words and not just what you thought you were thinking. And so bringing that up for people to be able to sit in, to realize, do you realize this is what was happening? So then you thought you were talking out loud, but you were still, because we're all talking to ourselves continually. That's you in contact with your team. And so it's learning to have that communication again. And so it took me quite a few years. We've been together quite a while. And for me to always push him forward. I would ask him about something of his day, or, what's three great aspects you had in your day. Because when I want to communicate and have conversation, I have taught very much that work stays at work. What I do in here is confidential. So I never speak about my job, my career, because it's nobody's business. It's confidential. And because that is a different compartment, a piece in my pie, than what I am as the wife. When my husband's coming home, I want to be engaged fully in him. And so another tool to use is keep certain things that don't need to be a part of that person's life in a separate compartment. I've had lots of people saying, well, I'm his wife, or I'm his husband, or I'm whatever, and I have the right to know everything that's going on in their life. No, you don't. No, you don't. If my husband wanted to know that, how would that work? Everything that I do as a hypnotherapist practitioner is confidential on purpose. Number one, he doesn't care because he doesn't know these people. And why would I? Why would he believe he needs to know that? That's just control issues or possession. But when it comes to your emotions, your mental state, your physical, spiritual state, you bet those are conversations that you and your partner should have 100% closure on. Now, do I have a clue what's happening with what my husband does with his job? No, because I'm not a part of his job. If he comes home and he needs some kind of support because he needs to just feed out what the day was, you bet I'm there. And I just listen because I have no input. I'm not who he is. I'm not trying to do what he does. But if he's asking me for some form of support of how, he'll bring people up and say, what do you get off of this person's energy or this or that, and I'll give my feedback. But other than that, it's just to listen. Women, for the most part, have learned to be really good supportive friends because we know we're not here to solve the problem, because there really isn't a problem. They're just having what we would call a bitch session. And most people who are centered and balanced, more stable in their life, won't see someone's chaos as yours. But you'll see that they just need a ground to speak it out. No different than writing it down, where you just have a play out where you can get it off your chest. And there really wasn't a solution that needed to be done. It was just, oh God, that feels good. I got to say it somewhere. And that's why we have different types of relationships as well, where people will develop relationships with you because they know you're not there telling them what to do or judging them for what they are or not doing in their life. But the male aspect is very different than the female aspect, because the male aspect, they literally are the ones that want to take it to the cave and come out with a solution. And so when you have a partner who's your best friend, and and they're of the male and female difference, or more masculine and more feminine, which is usually why we are attracted to each other, that male aspect wants to be the problem solver. And that's here where the communication can become a place where there may be arguments that start to happen. Neither one are wrong in it, because someone's seeing the problem and believing we need a solution for it to make it go away. And another one sees it and really just needed to get it out, but really didn't need someone's feedback. And this happens on so many relationships. And again, communication is key. My first beginnings of the relationship I'm in now, he would want to solve what was going on. And I would say to him, I just need a sounding board. I just need a place to throw out my thoughts, and then it gives me a place where I have a closure. And the deeper you start getting inside yourself, the more you don't even need a soundboard anymore, because you have your own soundboard that you're able to do that with. And that's why so many people started getting into journaling, because they started writing down their day so they could get it off their chest. And there is a power so strong in you when you can just center yourself and listen to yourself. Because one of the greatest things is you can see, oh, are you having the pity party? Or are you just going on and on? Where are you staying focused in? And are you absolutely going to do anything about it at this point? And that takes us to the next level of that part of the conversation that Charismatic Candy asked towards, is if you have that soundboard for them and they've got the ball rolling so forward, they're so far in victimhood, and it will not feel good for you, because victims drain the energy everywhere, because it's resistance, it's low and it's sticky, and nobody wants to be there. So how do you respond to someone who's there? And it's going to be different for each and every one of you. When I'm in session compared to not in session, it'll be two different things. Because number one, I'm being paid to be there for them 100%. And I want them to get their story out. I want to see and hear and feel where they are, what I'm hearing that's coming out of every word that they're saying, because it has a vibration, so that I can then use those words back for them to sit in, that they've been speaking because they created that frequency, to sit in saying, what about this? What do you mean by this? So that you can get them actively going in to start being the solver on their own. Now, if I'm out in public and I see that happening, I'll change the direction of it very quickly, because I'm not interested in negative Nellies and fun sponges. So let's find something else. Oh, look at the shiny object over here. No different than you do with a 2-year-old, to get them off of it so they realize you're not there to listen to them complaining. Because unless you're going to make an appointment with me and pay me to sit there and then give you solutions, that's not my job everywhere in my life. I'm here to be happy in my life. And so this is where each and every one of you decides, in every situation, every brand new form of relation, who are you going to be? Who are you showing up as? Many people who are victims only know to be a victim. And when they feel that you're not listening to them, they will have a pity party. And it will be all your fault, because you're this horrible person and you're never there for them. Because they do not want to wear that nobody wants to be around a negative Nelly. No one wants to be around a fun sponge. That's part of narcissism. That's always, always about you, and you're not wanting to do anything to change it. People who truly love you, that will not put up with you being a victim, are the ones who love you so very much, because they know that love is not lack. Love is not victimhood. That's lack of love. And so I hope this helps everyone a little more on how you want to show up. But that communication on every level is so, so very important. Every interaction you have with everyone that you meet, whether you're just seeing them for the first time, whether you're just giving them a glance and eye contact, that is a major level of communication. Touch without a word is a massive level of communication. Checking in on people. Hey, just thinking of you because they come in your awareness. Oh my God, that's a superhero trait, because you're letting them know you love them. There's so many different forms of what is communication, and it doesn't have to be a word coming out of your mouth. We know that when we go anywhere in the world, we can have body talk and the way that people express on their faces and whatever, where we can have an understanding, or an understanding somehow of where we're trying to converse on some level, to have some kind of communication, whether we're looking for directions. Thank God for apps now where we can speak and have it translate, and it can be spoken to people now, thank God, because it brings us even closer and closer together. You're seeing that all over the world, where people are able to really fall in love with each other and not know the language, but the magnetism, the connection that they have is phenomenal, and that's communication. Everything that we do, that connection, is communicating or not communicating all the time. And so one of the biggest fall aparts on most relationships is the lack of communication and the lack of respect in that conversation. Many people will not listen. And so you'll hear people say, did you hear one word I just said? Or you'll catch the, oh, and they have HIV. And you're like, what? And they're like, yeah, I knew you weren't listening. And so wear it when they catch you on it. Tell them why you weren't listening. What are you being honest about, of where something was way more drawing to the eye or whatever, or I didn't want to hurt your feelings because you were going on about your job again and I told you I'm not interested in going there. Leave your job at your job. Or. It's truth. It's real, and it is no lie. Communication is so great that way. You know, how many people that you're on the phone with them and they're listening to the television and you know they're distracted and they're not actually listening to you. What a lack of respect that is. Do you know what I do? I hang up. And when they ask, why did you hang up? Oh, did you even notice I hung up, other than the dial tone on the other end? Or did you actually want to have a conversation instead of watching a television show? Or whatever else was deciding to distract you. So that's the other part of the key with those tools of communicating and having that, is to make sure you are completely free from those distractions. Sure, there's children around. Sure, there's this that's going on. But you can speak and tell them, you need to find something to do while I'm having this conversation. You're teaching them to be polite and respectable to other people speaking. And it doesn't matter what age they are. If it's a 5-year-old that wants to have your undivided attention and someone else comes in the room, and just because they're older, they don't hold the shine. It's you having to say to them, you need to wait one moment. This person's finishing their conversation, because everyone deserves to be respected and heard, because that is where the conditioning starts. How many of you were brought up to be seen and not heard because children were not important? And you wonder why? Zero worth. People having fear of being able to have a conversation because they were taught to keep their mouth shut. And that if they came into the room, they'd give them chores or something to do. Number one, was it the adults wanting to have adult conversation, not wanting children's ears to hear? Yes. So why would you not be truthful? Everyone, every sentient person born understands tone. We can use that big 4-letter fuck word. It can be the most elated feeling, and it can be the darkest feeling. And the 5 letters put together has nothing to do with it other than the vibration you gave it, the frequency you gave it. That's why it's called casting a spell. That's why our language is so important. That is why so many people have issues in a text message or an email, because most people don't use punctuation, and they shouldn't have to. I've heard so many, especially males, say they would rather have a conversation with you by text message because they don't like the phone. If I was in the dating world, that would be end of discussion right then and there, because boys pretending to be men is a massive turnoff. If you can't sit in who you are and speak with your voice, then you are hiding. And what are you hiding from? Which is a lie. And that's why there are so many people having problems in the dating world right now, because people don't communicate. And the things they think that they would say to you on a text, they'll never say from their voice. I have so many, it blows my mind how many people have been broken up through a text message. And it's things like, oh, this just isn't working out. Really? No, respect whatsoever for yourself, so much fear for yourself, and you project it around on everybody else. I'm not interested in text messages because it's a waste of my time. Pick up the phone, show up on purpose, talk to me. And it's amazing what can happen in a 5-minute conversation compared to text messages in and out, when they choose to respond or not, and when you can get back to them as well and respond. And it could take over 2 days instead of a simple conversation. There's a reason why when people are booking hypnotherapy sessions and all that, unless I know you, that you have to pick up the phone and I need to have your voice, number one, because it's confidential information that we're going to be talking about. And there's tons of people that their other halves have texted them from their phone wanting to know what happened in the session, because we know hypnotherapy is phenomenal on how fast it changes people's lives. And the moment that this person starts to shine, it's unbelievable how much that their partner will suddenly go to the place of fear of losing them. And so they'll try to sabotage it. And this is sabotage, self-sabotage has been around our mental plane years on purpose to keep you from being the masters and the creators that you are. And so how many of you have this thought that, oh my God, I feel this grandness of this coming and this and that, and then the next feeling you get feels scary or fearful. What do you think you throw out to the universe? It's called sabotage. And it completely loses the punch in the momentum of it coming to you. Sabotage happens on unbelievable levels all the time. And one of the greatest things I'm going to say to you, and you can sit in it or choose not to, but it's the truth. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's always, always you in your own way. Always. Charismatic Candy, what would you like to say with this conversation and how it's going?
Just to add in a piece there, I've noticed myself, my communication has improved since the relationship with myself has improved, because I can sit at the end of the day and I do talk to myself in the mirror, and I'll high five myself and I'll blow myself a kiss. I'll ask myself the questions of, why is this still happening? What's my role in this? And then, like I said, I found since having that communication with myself, my communication with others is more open. I'm more open to hearing other people without the interruptions. And it's amazing how communication really does play so much into your life, and how, like you just said it, we are in our own way. And once we can put ourselves, and I think it's more the monkey process of what's going on in the mind of, if I'm here to have a conversation with you, I'm present with you. I don't want to be thinking about what I need to do in the next hour, in the next day, or why is this, what's that. You need me, not need me, but I'm respecting you. I want to have that respect level with you and understand you. And if there's a way that I can ask you a question to help you come to a realization yourself, then I just find that it's more of a beautiful gift this way than not being present and not being there while you're with people.
And Charismatic Candy, do you feel like sharing why you used to have such a fear of communication? What feelings or mental broken mind traps were you really trapped in that you thought about yourself for so long?
That's good. I was a pretty good bully to myself. I very much doubted what I had to offer people. I've always felt that I've seen people for who they are, not what they are in that moment or what their actions are in that moment. And then looking at myself, I never felt worthy enough, because raised as a child, and not that my mom and dad did anything right or wrong, because they did the best they could. And I completely understand that. Just as a child back in the day, we really were trained to be the silent type. You don't speak your mind. You keep your opinions off to the side. And then, yeah, it just kind of played in big time with the mental game inside of me of, oh, I shouldn't say anything because it's not worth it. They don't want to hear what I have to say, or I don't have enough experience on that subject. And then I would just kind of forget to show up for people. So it's amazing once I went inside and I found that love of self, how much the love I gave myself, I was then able to give others, to be there, to be present, to hear them. And if they asked for advice, I could then share it and know that what I had was value.
Those are pretty strong words. And I thank you so much, Charismatic Candy. And I hope this helps a lot of people, because so many people don't realize their level of zero worth that you were sitting in because it was normal to you. You didn't know you weren't worthy. You just knew you were who you were, but you didn't realize it wasn't worthy. You know, when you hear people talking about how they judge others who have money or not, that's all has to do with your worth. The poverty mind, the lack of every level has been really what has been your idea of what love was to you. And some of it's lack and some of it is. And so to see you, knowing you for how many years I've known you, in that place of constantly sabotaging yourself, overthinking continually, and so nervous and so fearful that you were stuck in such a place of needing to control absolutely everything because of your level of fear, which was your level of lack of love, because of you didn't have that confidence and you didn't have that courage to just do it and be it. And you know, many people can try to blame everything outside of themselves of why they are the way they are. But the moment we start adulting and having to put one foot in front of each other and doing what we would call adulting things, the moment that we realize that we are the one that's in our way and that there were programs that got us there, that forgiveness, don't you agree, was the greatest key of being able to forgive everyone, and then especially yourself. Because I know when you did the 8-week course and the looking in the mirror was so hard for you, Candy, and then the discovery of realizing, oh my God, I've been so awful to this beautiful little baby, little girl, teenager, adult. And how did that feel for you?
Getting to that realization, well, clearly it wasn't an easy process, because I had to see the parts of myself that I was hiding and that I was afraid to show. But once I got to see that beautiful, shiny part of who I am, and not to worry about what everybody else thinks of me, because it's not what they think that matters the most. It's in my heart. What do I feel? Where am I going? And what do I want to do with it? That when I finally got to see myself and feel myself without the judgment and expectations, wow, there's so much in this world that is just waiting, and that I can't wait to discover myself, because it's beautiful. Like when you find yourself and you find your value, which was really hard in the beginning, and Like, I mean, there's still days that, I can wake up and have oh gosh, what am I going to do? But then I ask myself, it's the processing and looking at myself again in the mirror. And it's like, we are so worth this. This is ours. We are going to get this. And we have it. Like, we got it.
And it's up to me if I'm going to get myself in my way or not.
100%.
Right. You know, for all of you listening, what I would love for you to sit in is being able to actually listen to hear, not to respond. And what is really cool in the conversation is most people aren't used to that at all. So the moment you actually show up and listen to hear, not to respond, you'll watch what happens on the other end as well. Because what's so great as well is they will then have to respond to you after speaking. And that will be where you respond after. So I'll use an example. Candy and I are having a conversation, and I'm just staying quiet. I'm listening the whole time. And she stops talking. Normally, you're waiting for someone to say something. What happens when nobody says anything? Someone decides to respond. And so the person that's held that powerful place, when you're not listening to respond, you're just listening to hear. There's a profound power in that silence, because now they've shown that they really do hold the floor, and then the next thing that is going to come out of their mouth will start to create a conversation between two people after that. And what that means is that person that was held in that space where there was that, they will be the one saying, is there anything you can help me with this? Or, how was your day? Because when they're, or were you listening to me at all? And that's when you say, yes, I've just been listening to hear you. And wow, the next conversation happens out of that. Because that person was in that conversation with that story they're needing to speak in that moment. And so listening to hear instead of listening to respond or to react, which most people do, that has a way different play field. And all of my graduated clients that have not only been in the 8-week, but continue in our life group going in, continually sit in that. Because just because you did the 8 weeks, it only means you played in something for 8 weeks. We're talking about years and years and years of programming of broken mind traps that came up to play with. No different than my accountability coaches at Opening Doors, anyone that's a part of my team, because I can't have you a hypocrite. I need you to know whatever you are supporting those people with, that you had to sit in that. And it is the drudges. Some of them are the stickiest, darkest places that you were trying to hide and lie about yourself so that you didn't see the whole picture of who you are. Good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's all amazing, because the moment that you shine love and forgiveness and light on all of it, it changes your life forever. But it will only be in a fleeting moment if you continually do not keep it as the repetitive motion of action in your life. And that's why respect is so important for everyone. Because the moment you respect yourself, you have a level of respect that you ebb out to everyone. And you can't help but respect everyone once you've given it to yourself. That's why most people have issues, because they don't love themselves. They don't respect themselves. They're scared of themselves. So how do they not mirror that back to you? Of course you see it. Of course you feel it. And guess what? What ends up being the interaction there is the same level. And why are you attracted to those of like minds? Because it's the same frequency that you're playing back and forth in, that you're feeding each other in, because it's normal to you. Because it's been a repeated behavior, which is programming. That's what mind control programming has been in her life. They call it instinct. it was programming put in that starts to genetically alter your RNA and be who you are. And that's why when we talk about when you are going in and finally doing that work, it's ancestral healing, because that same cell memory keeps playing over and over and over and over again until it's been looked at, released, looked at, or healed, whatever you believe has to be done with it. I'm so great we've had this conversation today. I really enjoy being able to speak from my heart and sit in all the little moments that made you have a catch in this communication today, because that's what it's all about, is being able to sit in it, contemplate it, and it's going to be different for each and every one of you. And that's why I would love to hear your input. Alana, thank you so much. You seem to be one of the people that really likes to let me know that you were listening. Thank you so much. And I hope you get so much out of this, because that is what love is. Love is communication and being able to help everybody every little step of the way. So, Candy, is there anything you'd like to say to end the conversation today for everybody?
Yeah, if I could just tell you or give you a little bit of advice or just even, I guess, challenge you or ask you. In 3 of your conversations you have today, tomorrow, the next week, practice being mindful and just listening and seeing how much more value you find in those conversations, just listening, not trying to speak anything. And in those conversations that you're having, only give advice if you're asked. I'm going to take the challenge on myself, because I can see places where I've not done that, and I can see where I have improvement. And I just going to show up as the best version of me. I ask that you show up as the best version of you, whatever that moment happens to be. And just remember to love yourself, because you are worth every piece of love that comes to you. So I wish you all an absolutely amazing week, and sit in it, and just, yeah, I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candy. It's always great having you a part of this team. And one last thing I would love every one of you to sit in is, I understand that the broken mind traps that, made the ego believe it had to be smart, or it needed to be needed, or had to have some kind of personality around it. And that's why communication has always been for people to want to respond in some form of relatability or knowingness that you can help somebody with. And so what I would love you to sit in is sitting in this conversation that we had today, on just sitting in that space to hear. Because it's only the ego that wants to feel smart. Love is not smart. Love is. That's why some of the most intelligent people that pretend that they're so enlightened or awakened is because they're just trying to hear their own voice. And they speak with vocabulary that has zero impact and vibration and frequency in it. That is why we know love simply is. Or a brand new baby would not understand what love is, because it wouldn't understand a word that, why the English language itself has adjectives beyond adjectives for the same thing, when it is a feeling that you're feeling in that word. And a child can say to you, when they're frustrated, you're not going to say, are you frustrated? What are you feeling? And they will tell you, and they understand that word. So then that's how you get to relate with them. No different than any other conversation. When you hear someone talking from a level of communication on their level, if you are going to respond at all and get to them, it has to be more on that level, or you're going to lose them. But to know that you're here just to love someone is what I want you to sit in, and that's what I'm talking about. You're not here to respond. You're not here to react. You're just here to sit in that space of love. Now, what I will do with people while they're speaking is subliminally, I will be saying, you are loved, you're safe, and it's okay. Or, I love you, I thank you, and I honor you. You are important. I love that you're finally speaking. I love that you're communicating. Thank you. And you can say that subliminally, because subliminally, everyone's catching that energy. And that's how communication without one word is still communication, as you're sitting and holding that space, listening for them to speak so that you can hear them. That is definitely a superpower. So thank you all so much for being here at Sit In It. And yeah, definitely do send your questions to support@livingwholeonpurpose.com. Or if you want to interact more at Sit In It on our Facebook group, absolutely go and join. And definitely if you want to subscribe to YouTube, and definitely give us a like if you liked what you heard, so that we can also measure how this is all going, because we don't know unless we know. I love you all. I thank you and I honor you all. Have the most amazing day, if that's what you want.